Hello everyone, in this video let's talk about flow control. So, flow control determines the order in which the program code has to be executed at runtime. Okay, so that means if I have multiple statements in a program, so in which order these statements are to be executed at runtime. Okay, so that will be specified by this flow control. Okay, so under this flow control we have three different types. Those are selection statements. We can also call this as conditional statements. Okay, so we have four types of selection statements: if else, nested if elif-else. Okay, and next one is iterative statements. So iterative statements means loop concept we will use here. So we have for and while. So in other languages like C, C++, we have do while loop also, but do while loop is not there in Python. Okay, only two loops, for and while. Okay, next coming to transfer statements. So we have two types of transfer statements in Python, that is break and continue. Okay, now let's see about each and every one in detail. So first let's start with the selection statements. Okay, so before going to start these selection statements, let me wipe the board and explain. So first coming to the first one, that is a selection statement. So here we have four types: if else, nested if, and if elif else. Okay, so these four comes under this selection statement. So we can also call this as a conditional statement. Conditional statement. So these four are the statements which comes under this selection statement. Okay, so before going to explain these concepts, so if you consider C language, okay, in C language how you will write this if else? If you will specify some condition. Okay, next you will open this curly braces and here you will write some statements. Okay, so if the condition is true, these statements are to be executed. Okay, so whatever may be the action which you want to perform, those actions will be written here. And next, braces are closed. That means if block starts here and if block is ended here. Okay, and next if the condition is false, what we will write? Else statement we will write. Okay, so whatever may be the condition which is true, these true statements will be executed. If the condition is false, else comes to the else loop and comes to the else block, and else block statements will be executed if the condition is false. So generally we will use these curly braces. Okay, this curly braces, it will determine the block of statements. Okay, it defines the block of statements. But in the Python we don't have this curly brace concept. Okay, so how to determine in Python these statements? Okay, let me show the syntax. So first let's start with a simple if. Okay, see here, if followed by condition. So here you can use parenthesis, or without usage of parenthesis also you can write. Okay, that means the usage of parenthesis in here is optional. Okay, so without using parenthesis also you can specify the condition, or with parenthesis also you can use. Both are allowed in Python. Okay, so here after writing this condition you have to use colon. Okay, so this colon, we are saying to the Python interpreter that you are going to define a block. Okay, whenever you are going to define a block, here in Python we have to specify colon. Okay, so after writing this you have to write the statements here, not here directly. Okay, you have to use some space and you have to write statements here. So whatever may be the statements which you want to write within the if block, those statements has to be written here by using some space. Okay, so this space is called as here I am specifying the statements, right? So suppose of statement 1, statement 2, statement 3. Like this I am specifying some statements. Okay. So, before writing these statements, whenever you are using this colon, what it says, we are going to define block of statements, right. So, whenever you are using this colon, you have to follow indentation. So, what is meant by indentation means just you have to specify some spaces. Okay. So, the same space you have to follow for all the remaining statements of the block. Okay. So, what it specifies means whatever may be the statements which you are writing here, those statements will be included in if block only. Okay. That is the meaning of this indentation. Okay. Definitely while writing the blocks like this, that means while writing if conditions or for loops, we have to follow indentation. Okay, we have to follow indentation. So, this indentation specifies that whatever may be the statements which are written there, those has to be included in that block only. Okay. So, suppose if we am writing some statement without following any indentation, so that means this statement is not included within this if block. This is outside the block, that means the if block ends here. Okay. This statement execution will be different. Okay. That means this statement does not depend upon this condition. Okay. If this condition is true only, these statements are executing, right, but this statement is not within the if block. That means this execution of this statement is not dependent on this if condition. Got it? So, here we have to, in Python we have to follow this indentation, as well as definitely must and should you have to, after condition you have to use this colon. You have to remember these two things. Okay. Now, let us see one sample program on if block. Okay. So, see here I have taken a variable name and I am reading the value of that variable during runtime by using input function. Okay. So, always this input function will return string, right. Here I need string itself, as name is a string variable, I am reading the string value during runtime. If that string is equal to Python, okay, so then you have to execute this statement, welcome to Python language. Okay. If that string is not equal to Python, so no need to execute this statement, just this statement will be executed. So, this statement will be executed in both cases, whether this is a true or false. In both statements, in both conditions, this statement will be executed, right. So, here I have taken an input as a Python itself. Okay. Suppose if this condition is true, so the output is welcome to Python language. Welcome to Python language. Python is easy to learn. Okay. Here I have read the input as Python. Then this is the output you will get, right. Suppose for example here suppose if my input variable is okay, if my name variable is suppose for example hello. Okay, I have read this string. So, this string is not equal to this one. Okay, so here what happens, condition gets false. So, if block will not be executed, right. So, what happens, only this statement, if the condition is false, in this case what happens, only the second one, that is the statement which is written outside the block. Okay, that is the only statement which I can get as an output, right. So, Python is easy to learn. Only this statement will be executed if this condition is false. If this condition is true, both these statements will be executed. If the condition is false, only this statement is executed. Okay. So, that is about simple if. Okay. So, here I have followed indentation here. See, directly I am not writing any statement here. I have followed some indentation and also I have specified here colon. You have to remember that. Okay. So, that is about a simple if block. So, next coming to if else. So, the syntax for if else is if specify the condition. So, write some true statements, okay, and if the condition is false, within the else block write the statements which are to be executed, okay. So, if the condition is true, these statements will be executed. If the condition is false, else statements will be executed. So, here I have taken one example. Here I have taken a variable number which is assigned with 5, okay. So, if that number is greater than 10, so here number is assigned with 5. If 5 is greater than 10, is this condition true? No, right, this condition gets false. So, if the condition gets false, it has to come to the else statement and it has to come to this else block and it has to execute this statement. So, within the else block the statement is number is smaller than 10. So, this is the output you will get, okay. So, if the condition is true, this has to be executed. As the condition is false, so the else statement has been executed in this case, okay. So, that is about if else.